Hi, in this video I'm going to read to you the financial horror story entitled Hedgecraft. It's covered on page 169 of Swiss Frankenstein Financial Horror Stories. Hedgecraft. "Take it to JJ, said Alice Douglas to Chris, one of the newly hired senior associates of his hedge fund, Bayshore Capital. "I want you to discuss it face to face, got it? His offices are next to the Serpentine Stephen waterfall in Hyde Park, behind the Royal Thames Yacht Club. Go in at the Albert Gate." "A law firm in Hyde Park?" said Chris. "Yes, it's a boutique law firm in an unusual location. He mentioned it had cost him a fortune, but he is loaded. JJ is a bit funny and he loves nature. That's why he built his firm in a cottage inside the park. He can't stand offices in the city, not even in the streets of Mayfair. He needs windows that can open to let his mind fly out. Haha." "Weird," said Chris. "Why do I need to go there to discuss the contract? Doesn't he have Wi-Fi in the park? I can order a pigeon to deliver." "Listen, smartass, just do it, okay? We take all of our important hedging arrangements to JJ for a reason. His firm is by far the most expensive and magic circle in every respect. Ask me why." "Why it is a magic circle in every respect, Alice," Chris said in a teasing voice. "That is, Chris, because none of the derivative contracts and hedging arrangements JJ advised on has ever had a negative mark-to-market value on termination. We always made money on them, and this is what everyone says. It is a public secret. In spite of market conditions that would have made it inevitable to incur a loss, somehow the trade confirmations always seem to have the right terms in them. I had a look at a few of those trade confirmations upon termination of the trades and thought we had agreed a different trade at the outset, but even our back office had those terms on record. Lucky? Shut up and go." Chris looked up JJ on the internet before he was going over to the firm, a few blocks away from their Mayfair address. A boutique law firm founded by James John, consistently ranking higher than the existing Magic Circle firms according to his site. Go-to firm for hedge funds according to another. Not clear why it's called J&J instead of JJ, if he is the only founding partner. Sounds better perhaps. He looked at a photo of James John. He looked a bit eerie of that white hair, a bit too long. According to his LinkedIn profile, he had been with Magic Circle firms for much of his working life, until he went on sabbatical before he came back and set up his own law firm. One article on the website for lawyers caught his eye, entitled "The Hedge Master." It highlighted how JJ was drawing in the city's top derivatives lawyers. They were taking home most of all law firms in the city due to the eat what you kill earning model for partners, combined with staggering rates. It mentioned his clients had never lost money. That's what Alice said as well. Chris had an appointment with JJ himself at 2 p.m, arranged by Alice, who was one of JJ's first clients. He arrived at the cottage about 5 minutes early and stopped for a minute before going in. It was a black and white type of cottage, as there were a few of around London. He watched a black bird land outside the window of a big room. "What is that? Is the bird going inside?" Haha, he laughed and looked around the cottage, scanning the lawns, trees and Serpentine Stephen waterfall. Indeed, about as close to nature as it gets. So different from just outside the park, and not a small place. This one had to be new. It doesn't show though. He walked in and was soon escorted to JJ's offices. Not a meeting room. Must be part of the personal touch. The magic part of the magic circle. "He is small." JJ walked from behind his desk and welcomed him. Very small actually. A bit of a garden gnome without the red hat. Hang on, is that a stuffed raven on his desk? Or the one that seemed to go inside? "It's a pleasure to meet you, Chris. I heard good things about you." "Thank you, I'm pleased to hear." Did Alice tell him that? He has not told me directly. "Let us sit down." JJ directed Chris to a chair next to the office table and sat down himself at a chair on the other side. Alice asked me to familiarize you with this key hedging arrangement, but also with the approach we take generally as when it comes to hedging, as we will be working more often together. And he wanted me to meet you, Chris. I'm all ears, said Chris. He looked around the room. The window was open. Furniture was college style. A framed college photo with a group of students hung on the wall. JJ noticed. Trinity, Cambridge. I read law there. Moved on to the usual magic circle firms, except for 2 years across the pond, New York. Same story, even more hours. At some point I was fed up with it. He looked at Chris from above reading glasses that were resting on a nose that looked like it had been in too many memos and loopholes. So what happened, said Chris, as he looked at some of the artifacts on the coffee table in front of him. I took a sabbatical and traveled Africa. He followed Chris' look at the artifacts. You know what those are? No. These are voodoo artifacts from different African cultures. I've been traveling around and training on their spiritual healing and also harming practices. And you know what? I've been applying some of these practices in my financial legal advisory practice. Excuse me, said Chris. JJ gave him a faint smile. The usual reaction. Let me say this. Hedging to cover risks is like healing. You heal a contract from the downside effects that it may be experiencing. I see, said Chris. What the fuck is this guy telling me? I understand you're skeptical. What if I tell you none of the contracts I've advised on or reviewed has ever had a negative mark-to-market value? I heard that. I find it hard to believe, to be honest. Even if it's true, do you believe it results of this voodoo? Spiritual practices, yes, I do. In fact, I don't just believe it, I know it. He stared in front of him for a moment. Anyway, you did not come here to be converted. You did bring the contract instead? I did. Good, said JJ. Can you give it to me, please? It's important that this is a print physically held by my client. I will review it briefly in the room next door and then bring it back to you. Okay, sure, whatever. Chris took the printed contract out of his briefcase and gave it to JJ. JJ walked to the other room of the room behind the desk and opened the door. The dark green room was half visible. Give me a few minutes. He closed the door. What is that review he's doing in there? He looked at the room. It has a keyhole. He quietly walked over and bent down. Great, I can actually see him. JJ was bent over a table where the contract was presumably lying. He could see half of JJ, a few meters into the room, mostly from the back, but enough from the side to see what he was doing with his right hand. He murmured something that was audible, but had an awkward sound to it, another kind of language. He then picked up the contract with his left hand. What is that in his right hand? An African toothpick or something? He seemed to touch the contract with it, in the top part, although it was just out of sight. Time to head back. I'll see it in a moment. Was he performing some ritual? He just sat in time before the door opened and JJ came out. Here, JJ said, whilst handing him the contract. You can tell Alice you're fully hedged now. Your counterparty will feel it, he said with a smile. It was good meeting you, Chris. See you next time. Thank you, JJ. Very nice to meet you, Chris said, whilst shaking his hand and walking out. JJ closed the door. His personal assistant greeted Chris as he passed by and quickly walked to JJ's office and opened the door again. JJ, I have a call from Rupert. She looked at his empty desk. No Raven. Right, the bird has flown again. As Chris walked out, he looked over his shoulder to JJ's office on the first floor. The window was open. Strange guy, JJ, but interesting. He walked on towards the Albert Gate exit, then stopped for a moment and took the contract out of his briefcase. His eyes scanned the top part of the first page. Just as I thought, minuscule piercings. One in each word of the legal name of the counterparty. Amazing. Just before he put the contract back in his briefcase, a black raven flew over, startling him with a loud cra sound, followed by a dropping that landed on the contract, on the name of the counterparty.